Hello and welcome to Long Live Hooky Street, the podcast where we rewatch and discuss every episode of Britain's most beloved TV comedy, Only Fools and Horses. I'm Jenny and I'm joined from Hong Kong by my co-host and sister, Heather. Say hello, dude.
Hello. Today we are doing a very special Series 1 overview where we will attempt to summarise our thoughts on Series 1 as a whole, discuss a little behind the scenes trivia and quiz each other with a few fun challenges we've come up with. Oh, on that note, let's start with a few things that we got wrong or maybe needed to clarify from our Series 1 episode. So, do you have some things we need to change or clarify?
Yeah, I guess not change, but yeah, so obviously nobody's perfect. So I definitely got a few things wrong when I was doing some of the research. It's nothing major, but I thought we would go over those just to clarify, because in some cases we just said we needed to research things in a little more depth, which I have done. So why not? Let's just go over these. So first of all, specifically from the Christmas Crackers episode, I found out that I did mention, I think you'll remember, I mentioned that there was some crossover between some of the sketch lines written for the two Ronnies.
Yes, I remember that.
But I said I didn't know what scene it was. Yes. So I did find out. So there was a two Ronnies episode, Series 9, Episode 7, called Pills and Ills. And I don't know if that's the name of the episode or just the sketch. But they used the bit about where Dell says, Grandad sneezed and two other blokes got better. That line is used in that.
They stuffed me full of antibiotics then, didn't they? I had so many pills, I sneezed one morning, the bloke in the next bed got better.
Yeah, but I also just happened to notice while I was reading the script for that episode that they also used the odor eaters line from Big Brother.
And prescribed a packet of odor eaters. Oh, yeah, I've heard about them, but they're good. Marvellous, marvellous. Ain't half hard to swallow, though.
But yeah, that's just a fun little interesting thing. I have absolutely no problem with lines being used twice or, comedy writers using their lines in more than one thing. I'm just pointing it out because it's interesting.
What's the quote? Good writers borrow, great writers steal.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not borrowing either when it's you as the writer. You're using your jokes in more than one
You're
place.
Plagiarizing yourself.
Yeah, and like John Sullivan did say, like I mentioned in Christmas Crackers, he was concerned when he found out that the sketch was actually being aired in the two Ronnies, but nobody noticed or cared, or at least no one told him, even if they did notice, so it's harmless. So moving on, I did also say in Christmas Crackers that they reused the set and the costumes from Go West Young Man. That is incorrect. It was only the costumes that were reused. That is not the same bar set.
Oh God, don't half look the same though.
It looks very similar. Yeah, but it's not the same.
Yeah, I can see why you thought that.
Okay, so one of the things that we got wrong in Christmas Crackers, and this is not about the episode, this was just in general life, our mom pointed out to us that we were wrong about how many TV channels there were at the time. Now, the main reason that I got this wrong is because I read it in the book. It said, a quote from either John Sullivan or Nick Lyndhurst said there were only two channels at the time, and they both had circuses on them. But our mom pointed out that at that time, there was actually BBC One, BBC Two, and ITV, so there were... Actually, there were three channels, not two. I don't know if there were circuses on all three. But yeah, Channel 4 was not around at that time. So
maybe that explains why Grandad has three televisions. Or he's supposed to have three in the second time around because he's watching all three.
You mean he normally watches three?
Yeah.
He's going senile.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Grandad always has the same thing on all three. And you notice
True.
that, right? Every time he changes the channel, he changes it on all three of his TVs, or two. Because we never really see him watching three, do we? Another thing that I said that was wrong was not really wrong, but I didn't really make it clear. I mentioned about the credits, and I said the end credits had like rectangular stickers that look like Post-its on the end credits. They're actually meant to be cigar box labels.
Well, to be fair, dude, that's an easy mistake. I thought they were stickers as well.
Well, I mean, they are stickers, I guess, but they're like the design concept is cigar box labels. So I thought I should just clarify that. I wouldn't know that from my own personal use of cigars. I just read that in the lovely jubbly anniversary book.
Well, no, I don't. Well, Jenny and I don't smoke. Neither of us have ever smoked, so it makes sense that we wouldn't know that.
No, and we definitely didn't smoke cigars in England, in London, in the 80s when those cigar boxes were around. So, so that finally, this was just a wondering that we'd both had about how the audience viewed some of the episodes, because we were like, oh, was this like different, like recorded differently based on reactions and the laugh track. So I pulled a little excerpt from the lovely jubbly book that explains how the actual how the they filmed the episodes, like what it was like in the studio. And so I thought this would be quite interesting just to put in here so people could understand that too. So this is directly from the book. So for BBC sitcoms as standard, the location filming was always done in advance. So then they would do the Sunday evening studio audience recordings, and they would put the filmed segments played back in sequence with the live studio portions of the episode, so that the audience was presented with a seamless version of the story, and their live laughter was then recorded and mixed into the final edit. So people were not just watching odd scenes here and there, they were actually watching the episode just like we do, except they were watching the studio recordings live. So the book says, during recording up in the gallery, the director and producer would work with the vision mixer to piece together the episode live, although carefully prepared camera scripts and camera rehearsals had helped to plan the shots and cuts in advance. Director Tony Dow said, technically in these days it was far more basic, but it really had an air of electric excitement. And I thought that reminded me of like live stage performances, you know, when you actually have to have all the crew and everything working seamlessly together. It's probably so much more pieced together now. Like they don't worry that much about how the audience views it. They probably care more about the shots. But this was done really well to make it nice for the audience to view it. And I thought this was interesting too. They actually had a strict curfew at the BBC of 10:30 p.m. So they couldn't afford to have any delays. So imagine how professional the actors and the crew had to be to execute this so smoothly. Like they couldn't have breakdowns or laughing fits or people not knowing their lines. And, you know, some of these lines are complicated and they had to be so professional because they had a curfew where they had to be finished filming and that's it. The audience has to leave. Everything has to be shut down. So I thought that's pretty interesting.
I wonder if that's why in some of the I can think of like a couple of times where you can see that David Jason is going to laugh after he says a line. Like there's two that come to mind. One of them is, I think it's in Homesick season 3 when he says,
we could take him to Lord's.
Lords? Lords? He don't even like cricket.
and he turns back to Grandad and you can see David Jason is about to burst into laughter, but he holds it back like so hard. And then there's another one in, oh God, which episode is it? I think it's Rodney Come Home. It's the part where he and Albert are plotting to be shocked about Rodney saying that he's taking a girl to the pictures.
Who are you taking? Cassandra?
No, not Cassandra. It's a girl.
A girl?
Girl?
David Jason, you can see on his face, you can tell David Jason is about to laugh every time Buster Merrifield does that sound. He obviously found it really, because it is hilarious. He just finds it funny. But yeah, you can really see it. And I wonder, the holding in that laughter, not only because he's a professional actor, but also because they were on such strict time. It was probably part of the reason, because I think in a lot of sitcoms, I mean, you see all these like outtakes and bloopers from, you know, Friends and Frasier and all this sort of stuff. I mean, I'm not saying that they weren't on a strict time as well, but I feel like Only Fools and Horses was really, really strict about a lot of things, because, I mean, we're not there yet, but I also know a story, or I heard a story about A Touch of Glass, where they said they'd fire them if either of them laughed when the chandelier dropped, because they could only do it in one take and stuff like that. But I mean, what I'm saying is like that kind of level of strictness about things is well, not just I wouldn't say strictness, professionalism is really something that I think is maybe a little more hard to come by maybe now in comedy. I don't know. I mean, I've never worked on a comedy show, but I think, yeah, it's just interesting, yeah, to see that they were so strict about laughter when they were filming a comedy.
Well, I mean, I don't think they were necessarily strict about laughter. I think that the Touch of Class thing was more to do with the fact that it was a very expensive prop, and they only had one shot. I don't think that was a common thing. I think there was lots of times when they could have easily retaken a shot. That one does stand out because it was a one shot and you've lost it. Deal. And they only said that to scare them. I don't think they would have fired them. Well, we'll never know.
Well, how could they have?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely other occasions where you see laughter has been left in by the cast for sure. But I think that, again, it's not as it doesn't need to be as perfect as some of the other shows, you know, that you're talking about, because it had a little bit more of a loose sort of stage play like sort of a thing going on with it. And it was the 80s. Maybe they weren't as strict about it, but also they wouldn't lose a whole take, because like the energy of the audience and the energy of the actors, like they're not going to cut a whole take and be like, redo it just because there was a little smirk on one of the actors' faces, because it kind of because it adds to the vibe of the scene.
Well, to be fair as well, it's more realistic in real life. If you tell a joke, sometimes you find the joke that you told funny yourself. So it's to have a little smirk or something after you tell something you know is funny is natural, actually. It's even though in a show it shouldn't be like that, but in real life it would be like that. So.
Yeah, and I think all of the actors in Only Fools and Horses are very good at laughing and being amused in a way that's believable. Like, and the little line that's coming to mind right now for me is from Stage Fright when Rodney laughs when he says,
And that was followed by a medley of rock and roll.
That is not funny, Rodney.
he definitely is laughing genuinely when he says that. Like, he tries to keep his face straight, but the way that he pulls his face down and laughs, it's very obviously he laughed for sure.
I'd imagine David Jason especially. He's got one of those faces that I know if I was acting with someone like him, I'd be laughing all the time. He's just got this lovely charm, these little cheeky smiles that he does in between things when he knows he's nailed it. It's just so great. It must have been amazing to work with them on that show.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, do you want to talk about the audience reaction to Series 1 now?
Yeah. So Series 1 as a whole, that's what we're trying to sum up today. So a little bit of behind the scenes about what happened after Series 1 finished airing on the BBC. So after it ended, the BBC actually did an audience survey to gauge what people had thought overall about Series 1. What do you think people said?
Oh, God. About Series 1, I would say overall... I mean, I don't really know what else was available on television at the time. But from what you said, there wasn't really anything like Only Fools and Horses on the TV. So I'd imagine if people watched all 7 episodes, they might actually have some nice things to say. But all 7 episodes, which is what we're going to talk about anyway, were quite starkly different to each other, in my opinion. There wasn't a lot of consistency across the 7 episodes with regards to the style of the show. So, but of course, I actually do know that it wasn't very favorably reviewed as well.
Well, to be honest, it's not necessarily true that people didn't like it. Like, that's not the problem. I think it was I'll just go through what I've written here and we'll kind of summarize.
Yeah, sure.
But it wasn't negative. Most reviews were favorable, but I think the issue with the time and the type of comedy that it was that they didn't know at that time what was going to be popular and what wasn't, and whether it was worth carrying stuff on. But so I've written here, most reviews were favorable. The acting especially was praised, and the ensemble of the 3 main characters working well together was something that viewers particularly liked. Other things that were praised were the credible situations, the originality, the witty dialogue. A general criticism that some had was that the show had got off to a slow start, and I don't think that's anything that we really can argue against. It did, like, especially when you look back from our vantage point of being 40 years in the future and seeing all the future episodes, it does appear that it got off to a slow start. But imagine if that were the only series that you had to go off of, you'd still think that. So what I tried to do to prepare for this episode shooting was I pulled together what I think are the top 3 reasons viewers wanted the second series, and then our top 3 criticisms of the Series 1 pulled from all the episodes that we've reviewed. So I'll just sum this up real quick and we can discuss it.
Sure.
So the top 3 reasons that I think viewers wanted the second series would be, number 1, strong writing. So punchy and cleverly written comedy. John Sullivan was clearly gifted, and I think this comes across even in the slower episodes. You can still hear the dialogue and you know that he was a good writer. He created these incredible characters, and that shone through even in the early days. Number 2, going off of that, is the chemistry between the 3 lead actors. You can tell was very special even from the beginning. Even though we don't know the characters very well, you're just getting to know them. Their believability as a family and the brotherly relationship, you can feel that they have a history, even though these guys didn't know each other 6 months before this, you know? It was all thrown together very quickly at the last minute, so it's even more impressive that they were able to have such chemistry just immediately. And then I think that number 3 would be the relatability from the British public. Because a show like this is about underdogs, it's about family, it's about people that aren't like far away from what you might know as friends and family living in London. Like, this is believability. British people can relate to it. And even though Dell and Rodney would be considered criminals in the eyes of the law, we as an audience actually root for them, even in the early days. And this would stick in the mind of anybody that would watch the show the first run through, is that these are guys that you actually think aren't bad people. They might be running a couple of little scams and stuff, but you see their motivation and their family. The reason that they're trying to make the money is for the family. So it puts them in a sympathetic position through the eyes of the British public.
Yeah, I think those reasons are extremely valid, because I think, the relatability of the show, I completely agree with you. I mean, one thing that is quintessentially British is going down the pub or having a local. And that is one of the main locations that is used in season 1. I mean, obviously we do have series 1. We do have some episodes that don't go to the Nag's Head, but even the one that doesn't go to the Nag's Head, which is I think like Cash and Curry off the top of my head, we go to an Indian restaurant, which again is a quintessentially British location. You know, everyone's been to a curry house in the UK, everyone's got a local curry house. And then of course, the flats, I mean, council housing, a lot of people live like that in the UK. I don't know now so much, but definitely then. And it's a very common way for people to be, and the sorts of people, as you say, like you go shopping down a market and you see a Dell boy there. Even John Sullivan said, like, you know, this is who he based the character off, people he'd seen in the market. And it's, you see the characters of Only Fools and Horses all around you in real life, even to this day. And the chemistry, is undeniable. I mean, you would never think, putting Nick Lyndhurst and David Jason next to each other, that we would ever buy them as brothers, but somehow they managed to create that bond between them. And then you've got this like granddad character just to bring it all together. It's wonderful. And even the side characters that are introduced have amazing chemistry with the main cast as well. And then the writing is strong, but as I said, you'll probably get onto this when you talk about the criticisms, but I think the inconsistency of the style is or the genre, I should say, actually, more than the style, is maybe the thing that let it down a little bit. But the writing itself, you know, if you're writing a sleuth episode, a crime episode, Crash and Curry, you've got you covered. If you're writing a pilot episode, although we don't call it the pilot then, but Big Brother's a great pilot episode. If you're writing a love story that had gone wrong the second time around is a great example. So there are lots of different themes that are explored, and I think they just didn't really find what they wanted to make the show about at that point, and it gets stronger as the show goes on. So
I mean, that's another good point that I didn't really put in my criticisms, to be honest, is that the stories do jump around quite a lot, but I guess maybe that could have saved it a little bit, because if it had been like 7 episodes like Cash and Curry, or 7 episodes about love stories, like maybe people would have thought it fell too much into a category that they didn't like. I don't know.
True. I mean, it's all subjective, isn't it? Things like this. I mean, I feel like John Sullivan was quite experimental in the first series of Only Fools and Horses with what he was trying out. And I think that that's important to do that in art, because you have to, you're trying to figure out what works. And obviously he settled in a bit more later on onto a certain style of writing for Only Fools and Horses. But in the first series, he was playing around with it a lot more. And I think that's very bold of him to do that. And it's great he got the chance to do that. So many writers never get that chance when they sign a contract with someone like the BBC, because if it doesn't work out after the first episode or 2 episodes, they get cancelled. So it's really good that he had that chance.
Right. And like we said when we did the introduction episode, he wrote the whole of series 1 before anybody was cast or anything. So he had all of these ideas, and yes, like some of them are a little bit more on the drama side, and some of them are like kind of off key, like a little bit different to the others. And he'd written all of them at once before he'd seen the characters come to life. So it does make sense that it's a bit all over the place, and maybe he hasn't found his specific niche yet, but let's go over these criticisms, and then that finishes it up, but it covers what we've said a little bit. So my first thing that I pulled from what we have said and from what some of the audience reviews were, that the plot lines in series 1 were fairly weak overall. So most of the episodes are more character driven than plot driven, which is not necessarily a bad thing in the future, but we aren't in love with these characters just yet. I mean, we can see the potential, but some of the, you know, a lot of people will say it's slow, like the episodes are slow. I think we said about some of the episodes like Christmas Crackers bar scene, which we were particularly critical of, I know, nothing happens in the scene. It's just a lot of dialogue and a lot of repetitive dialogue. And that would work really well in a stage play setting or in like if you're really familiar with the characters, but it doesn't work probably just yet, only because he hadn't found the characters yet, you know, like we haven't got enough background to go off of, and that's probably all it is. And then you mentioned that in Russians Are Coming and Slow Buster Chingford that the episodes seem very split in half. Like you've got the first half where more happens, and the second half it kind of goes slower, and that becomes more like a stage play. Again, it's almost like he had strength at setting up the story and then he didn't know how to wrap it up sometimes, and that is because probably BBC restrictions on time and everything made it hard for him at first to get into that flow with these characters. He wasn't new to writing TV show scripts, but with this new format and these new characters, maybe he just needed longer to develop it. And I think a lot of people will agree that when he started writing the longer episodes. So the second main reason I wrote down that people may have been not necessarily, they weren't critical about this at the time, but when you look back at it, there was a lack of supporting characters in series one. As much as the viewers liked Dell, Rodney, and Grandad in series one, the audience in later series absolutely loved the supporting cast. Boise, Trigger, Denzel, Mike, the communal feeling of everybody down the Nag's Head. And it's not just the characters, but the lack of the Nag's Head in series one. It only appears, is it twice?
Definitely Big Brother.
And
then...
second time around, right?
Yeah. You might be right.
And we only see Trigger twice, right? We see Boise once, and he's not even at the Nag's Head. So it doesn't appear like Dell has his friends around him much in series one. Whereas if you think about the future episodes, every Christmas special had every character in it. There's episodes like Chain Gang that everyone loves, where everyone's together the whole episode. Like, it's true that they may have taken a bit of time to get a following, but these characters are something that people love about Only Fools and Horses, and series one has a distinct lack of those people.
I mean, you say the most beloved episode, I think, by most fans is the Jolly Boys outing, and that is all about all the characters being together on a Beano to Margate. And you're right, that's what makes it, the whole montage is so wonderful, because it's got all the characters together having fun. So
I think it just again, like, you can watch these episodes back with that viewpoint and be like, oh, you know, you feel them missing. It's like you want more people in the show. I like the episodes themselves in their own right, but I definitely prefer episodes where there are more characters. So it's true.
There's a lot more one-off characters in series one, I guess. You've got the Indian restaurant owner. You've got the gay bartender in Go West Young Man. You've got the character in Christmas Crackers, I can't remember his name, who does speaks from the bar. Yeah, you've got the girls they're chatting up in Go West Young Man as well. Yeah, it's in The Russians Are Coming, there's not really anyone else. And then yeah, you're right. There's you've got the policeman and Wayne.
There's Eric.
Wayne! The siren! Where's he?
Eric, the policeman and Wayne. But yeah, there's like a few one-off characters that have some funny bits, but yeah, not too many recurring characters in season one.
Yeah, it could have been budget reasons. We don't know if John Sullivan was told to keep like more people out of it. He just wants some very
even Grandad was cut out of one episode. So
right. So yeah. So that's it. And then the last reason I wrote down was it's just a lack of a developed world, which I guess goes back off the back of the second reason. The characters and the world that we know in Peckham with all those different places, you know, it just hasn't developed yet. We don't really have the Nag's Head. We don't have any other places. We don't get Sid's Cafe. We haven't got much seen in the market. We just don't have like the world built yet. That's all.
Yeah, I was going to say, you even pointed out, I remember when we were talking about the episodes, that we don't see Dell doing market trading apart from the second time around. It's the only time. And even that, it's extremely brief. It's just the very beginning of the episode. And we get the impression that Rodney's doing it just as much as Dell in that episode, that they do it together as a team. And of course, later on, we find out, as you say, Rodney's a lookout and Dell is the one doing all the selling. But it wasn't established in series one.
And we know that that's something that the audiences love in the future episodes, because think about how many future Christmas specials start with Dell selling. They even did like comic relief sketches of Dell in the market. And anytime you see clips played from the show, there'll be like clips of Dell selling. So like that's something that's very like part of the Only Fools and Horses vision that people have, and like so that's very much missing from series 1. There just isn't enough. I mean,
the lies that Dell tells to sell things in the market, and the manipulation that he uses to get people to buy his goods is comedy gold a lot of the time. So
yeah, right. So yeah, the results of that BBC survey were actually, quite promising from my point of view. Yeah, so there's 4 results. So they were asked, would you welcome a second series? The percentage of people that said yes, definitely, was 41%. Yes, somewhat was 35%. Not particularly was 20%, and definitely not was 4%. So that's mainly positive. Yeah,
they are great results. Yeah. I mean, arguably, that's like 76% of people wanted a second series.
Yeah, I mean, I would be happy with that, and I don't think that they necessarily weren't happy with it, but they average viewing figures for series 1 were only 7.7 million, which was low. But at the time, the BBC was known for nurturing shows like this, even if they didn't get off to a running start. So
things have changed.
Yeah, like nowadays things are done very differently. But we are talking about 1982 or 1981, I guess. Course. Yeah, it would have been
streaming.
This would have been 1982. So yeah, Sullivan had a meeting with some of the higher ups at the BBC, and he was disappointed because he didn't think it seemed like it was going to be continued. But again, Ray Butt came along and threw his support behind John Sullivan. But another big advocate for the show was actually none other than David Jason himself.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and he argued that the main reason people weren't watching the show was because nobody understood what Only Fools and Horses meant. But he also conceded that himself, Nick Lyndhurst, and Leonard Pierce were not really well known enough to draw a big audience, which, he is correct, probably. But despite this, the BBC did go ahead and agree to the second series, but they have said that the show would get a new theme song.
Yeah.
Because the BBC had been bombarded with letters from viewers asking what Only Fools and Horses meant. And as we know, like there's no such thing as bad engagement. The fact that they got all these letters probably was a good thing. People are actually like, hey, what does Only Fools and Horses mean? Now, I didn't know this, but John Sullivan had already written the Only Fools and Horses song before Series 1. And the decision had been made to just not use it. And they went with that Ronnie Hazelhurst theme. And the person that made that decision was actually Ray Butt. So I guess nobody's perfect. Yeah,
I was going to say, Ray Butt's been saving the show over and over. And then he chose that music over the theme song we all know and love.
Yeah, he definitely, that's one of his bad decisions, I think. But but we don't know if that really was that big of a deal back then. But perhaps it would have helped explain what Only Fools and Horses meant to people. I don't necessarily know if that had an impact on people, but I do think music and theme tunes are very important. And this theme tune does. Yeah, I think this theme really does explain what Only Fools and Horses means, or at least it gives a hint that it's involved somehow. Because
I cannot understand someone listening to the theme song they used for Series 1 and the one that we all know and love and picking the first one. I can't understand who would do that. Like, it's so good. The theme song to Only Fools, like even just the first few bars, the dun dun dun.
But that's the thing. I don't think he was able to listen to it because it hadn't been recorded, right?
Oh, so that makes more sense.
Maybe he had just saw it on paper. I don't know, because it says here that Sullivan was reluctant to record it for the broadcast, so this had to be done right before Series 2. He'd written it, but it hadn't been recorded because Sullivan wanted Chaz and Dave to sing it.
Oh, yes. I remember you saying that before.
But at that time, they were just not available because they got their own #1 hit, Ain't No Pleasing You, and they were unavailable. So if that had been recorded the year before, then he would have been able to be like, oh, hey, like now it's going to be used. Can you come back and record it? So this was obviously done on a time crunch. So I'm guessing maybe Ray Butt just saw it on paper, or maybe John Sullivan pulled out his guitar and was like, this is how it goes. But either way, it didn't sound the way that it sounds that we recognize.
Yeah, it wasn't a produced version of it.
Yeah, so I don't think that Butt can be blamed for that. Luckily for all of us, Series 2 went into production in April 1982. So I just pulled a few little bits of information about what was going on in the UK at 1982, around the time that it started to film, just for the people that were around at that time, and see if any of this triggers any memories. So around that time, it was right when the Falklands War started. A few other things that happened in 1982. In June, we got the introduction of the 20 pence piece. And the birth of Prince William. For all the 20 pence piece, yeah, like I didn't know that only came out in 1982.
Oh, Prince William.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, which of those two
I'm
things
more excited about the 20 pence piece.
are more exciting to you? Yeah. Here's something that will be of absolutely no interest to you, but might interest some of the viewers. This is just for contextual, so people can remember things from that year. It was the World Cup. England got eliminated from the World Cup in the second group stage. Manager Ron Greenwood retired and was succeeded by Bobby Robson. This is a piece of news that's relevant to Series 2 recording. So the Hyde Park and Regent Park bombings detonated by the Provisional IRA, or the Irish Republican Army, happened in 1982, which is a factor in a well-known cut in a losing streak, which we'll come across in a couple of episodes' time. And finally, on November 2nd, 1982, which was around the time this was Series 2 started airing, Channel 4 launched in the UK. The first program broadcast was Countdown, hosted by Richard Whiteley. Yeah,
I used to love Countdown.
And Brookside. Go ahead with the theme tune. No, okay.
No, I don't know. Brookside, I never watched, but
Nor did
Countdown
I,
was
yeah.
classic. The Countdown music and the Countdown theme song always reminds me of being at our nan's house when we were little, because she used to watch it all the time. Nanny Sylvie.
All right, so let's finish up with this and let's move on to we're going to go over our rankings. Again, we've already done them in the episode, so we're just going to sum up our orders, our Series 1 orders, right?
Okay, yeah, so if you've been listening to us until now, you know that we've each independently ranked all 64 episodes, and we've been discussing our rankings each week. So we are now going to do a quick summary of our episode order for Series 1 and see how they compare. So take it away, dude. What's your order?
So here's my Series 1 order. Big Brother, The Second Time Around, Cash and Curry, The Russians Are Coming, A Slow Bus to Chingford, Go West Young Man, and Christmas Crackers. Let's hear yours, dude.
Well, I think mine's a bit different. So mine is Cash and Curry the second time around. We've both got that in our second slot. Oh, the irony. Big Brother, A Slow Bus to Chingford, The Russians Are Coming, Go West Young Man, and Christmas Crackers. Now, actually, I just noticed ours are very similar. So Cash and Curry and Big Brother are reversed, and then The Slow Bus and The Russians are reversed, but then everything else is the same.
Exactly.
So
it's not that different.
Not a lot of difference.
No. It's like, they're not in the exact same positions, but there's not much far off between them. And I think there's only subtle reasons why you prefer Cash and Curry over Big Brother and why I prefer Russians Are Coming over Slow Bus. They're fairly close.
A Slow Bus and The Russians to me always seem like the same episode in my head as a kid. Like I'd always be like, oh, you want to watch one of these episodes? I'd never be able to choose because they were the same. So it's interesting that they're next to each other in the rankings for both of us. And then Go West Young Man and Christmas Crackers, I always put them in the same category because of the nightclub stuff.
Yeah.
So it's interesting those two have ended up next to each other as well. So I just think that's interesting, the way that it's turned out.
I was going to say that, just as one reminder, is that we both ranked Go West Young Man number 57, which is quite funny. And Christmas Crackers were only one ranking apart from each other.
I mean, all the rankings are quite similar. We're all pretty. I mean, you've got a few higher ones than me, but your 42nd and my 42nd are both in Series 1 because you've got a second time around as 42 and my Cash and Curry is 42.
Yeah. So my highest episode ranking for Series 1 is 40, and that was Big Brother. And your highest is 42. So none of your Series 1s got higher than 42. So we agree that it wasn't the strongest series. So imagine if you only had this series to go off of. I'm really glad the BBC picked up the second series.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, so regarding the awards segment that we've been doing throughout the series, we're now going to go to the awards and maybe give an extra overall award for each one. So we're going to go through all the plonkers first and then decide who the overall plonker of Series 1 is.
Plonker.
Yeah. Well, I think, it's kind of decided for us, right, in this case, because
Dell got it.
So Dell was plonker 4 times. I'm surprised we didn't give Rodney plonker at all. I guess he wasn't really a plonker.
Now I'm looking at it. So we've got Dell 4 times. We've got Odd Job once, which was Cash and Curry because he's only in that. Pauline once because again she's only in one episode, and Grandad only got it once. So Dell. I mean, Dell was quite a plonker in Series 1, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense because we're learning that Dell, although he's good at a lot of things, he was the problem in many of these episodes, like his decision making and his mistakes caused the downfall of the scam or the scheme or whatever in this series, probably the most. So plonker of series 1 is Dell.
Hey, brothers! What about that, my son? Here I
Well done, Dell.
Good job, Dell.
So we have already awarded all of the best lines of the series. So Jenny and I have gone back and listened to all of the ones that we chose, and we have decided to award one each for our best line of the series. So dude, which episode and which line did you choose as your best overall of the series?
Yeah, so for me, the best line of the series would be, I'm choosing Granddad's line from The Russians Are Coming. Yeah,
That's what I chose too.
Okay, great. Yeah. I think because, obviously it's not a comedy line.
They promised us homes fit for heroes. They give us heroes fit for homes.
It almost fits more appropriately for this series. To be honest, it is the best, most impactful line. It doesn't have you rolling on the floor in laughter, but we'll have plenty of those in future series.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's definitely the best line of the series. And then what about the best moment of the series from all the ones we have to choose? Which one did you choose, dude?
Well, why don't you tell me which one you chose?
Okay, sure. So I chose Cash and Curry, Dell falling down the stairs.
Me
as the
too.
best moment of- Oh my goodness. We're too similar.
I know, you're right. I think we need to be more different, but I mean, I don't know why. I just thought overall, there's lots of great moments. Yeah, and they're all great, but that one.
Of all the choices on that list, though, that is again, when I think of best moment, I think of a clip I could show to other people to show how great Only Fools and Horses is. And out of the whole of the series 1, that is the one I would choose to show how great it is. Plus the Hugo. It's just too funny.
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. So, okay. Finally, for each series wrap, we're just going to do a quick continuity check, which will not take very long for series 1. I should imagine this will take a little bit longer in the later series where we find lots of inconsistencies. But there aren't any actual inconsistencies to report yet. Not really. I'm just going to run down all the mentions we get of timeline and age, just so we can sum them up, and it'll be easier to do this in series 2. But I already know that by the end of series 2, there's some inconsistencies. So all we have so far is in Big Brother, where we get the most information. Dell mentions that he was 13 when Rodney was born, and Rodney says that he's 23. So that would make Dell 35 or 36. Dell also says that his mom was 39 when she got pregnant with Rodney. Then in Go West Young Man, Dell says that he is 35. So we have two definite statements of age. Rodney's 23, Dell is 35. In Second Time Around, we do learn when Dell's talking to Auntie Rose that his parents got married in 1947. So that means that if he's 35 in 1981, that would mean that Dell was born in 1945 and he was 2 when his parents got married. So that's all I have so far. But yeah, I will definitely I've already got some notes for series 2 where all of this gets messed up.
Yes,
but
I'm sure. Yeah,
and
I mean, it's hard to keep tabs on things like that. I can't think of a single TV show that doesn't have some sort of continuity error with things like that.
And everybody, most fans of Only Fools and Horses, know that John Sullivan did not keep the dates and stuff very consistent, and especially got messed up when he made Rock and Chips. And this is not a criticism of John Sullivan. I'm just doing this for fun, because we're going through the episodes and I can just pull the dates out and be like, oh, hey, look here, it says this and it says that. And I'm not criticizing anybody. This is just for fun. Okay, so yeah, let's finish up with a quick little pub quiz. I've just made a little series 1 quiz for Heather, so this shouldn't take too long. Let's see how many little facts about series 1 that you remember, dude. And this should be quite easy. No. Yeah. All right, so let's do this quick fire. How much in total does Dell pay Trigger for the Old English vinyl briefcases in Big Brother?
£8 each.
Total.
Oh, total. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking about the bartering bit. Oh God, 275. Is that right?
No, it's 175. No, remember, he was going to pay 175, and then his financial advisor advised him to pay.
I can't believe it. I messed up already.
Okay, according to Dell, what was Rodney's nickname on the professional tennis circuit?
Hot Rod.
You got it. Does Mr. Ram belong to the high caste or the low caste?
The low caste.
Correct. Rodney suggests Dell and Pauline announced their engagement in which publication?
Exchange and Mart.
Correct. According to Dell, which artist is a Wally brain?
Michelangelo.
Correct. What is the name of the policeman that stops Dell for speeding and the Russians are coming?
Eric.
Correct. And finally, what charity did Rodney buy the Christmas cards from in A Christmas Crackers?
Oh, God, the Peckham Drug Addiction Association or something like that.
No, it's the Deptford Drug Addiction Centre.
Oh.
Okay, and that's it
Deptford
for the
Drug Centre.
quiz.
See, I haven't watched that episode as much, so I don't know that one.
No excuses.
Wow. I got 2 wrong. Oh, man, I'm a terrible series
okay.
1 person.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
Okay, drink up, we're leaving.
That's it for Series 1. We certainly hoped you enjoyed our little series wrap. Feel free to skip them in the future if they're not your cup of tea. Join us next week when we'll be starting with Series 2, Episode 1, The Long Legs of the Law. And for one last time.
Au revoir, listeners. If you like what you hear and want to contact us, you can email us at longlivehookeystreetpodcast@gmail.com. All one word, no spaces. Bonjour.